So now we go to the second group of drugs used for the treatment of angina, and you're also probably familiar with this already because the calcium channels have been introduced earlier in the lecture on hypertension. No, so if you remember, there are um, several types of calcium channels in the body. In the cardiac myocytes, we find the L type of calcium channels, and this is the target. No, this L type calcium channel is the target of these agents, no, for the treatment of heart conditions like angina. Okay, the CCBs will decrease calcium ion influx through these voltage gated channels in the plasma membrane. And therefore, the intracellular calcium diminishes, and this will decrease contraction in cardiac myocytes. In the blood vessels, this will relax the vascular smooth muscles of the blood vessels. No? So because of these two effects, you decrease cardiac workload and decrease myocardial oxygen demand. No? Okay. Now, additionally, it has been shown that the calcium channel blockers may increase the have the ability also to dilate the coronaries. So they have the potential for increasing delivery of oxygen-laden blood to the myocardium. No? Although the extent of or the how much this contributes to their overall uh, effect in terms of uh, decreasing cardiac oxygen demands remains to be determined, no? So hindi natin masyadong alam pa how useful this effect is in terms of calcium channel blockers being as treatment for angina. Okay, this coronary artery dilatation. Okay, now all the calcium channel blockers will have these effects that I mentioned, no? But they will differ um, with each other, with one another in terms of the degree to which they cause this effect, no? For example, if you remember, the non-dihydropyridines like verapamil and diltiazem will have more cardiac depressant effects. They will have more effects in terms of slowing the pacemaker and slowing the AV nodal conduction. So they have more effects in terms of negative inotropism and negative chronotropism compared to their ability to dilate blood vessels. No? When we talk about the dihydropyridines, they have the reverse effect. No? Mas greater yung ability nila or their effect in terms of causing vasodilatation over their cardiac depressant effects and over their um, ability to decrease heart rate. No? Okay. Now, the CCBs in general bind to the calcium channels in their open and inactivated conformations. So they will decrease the responsiveness of the calcium channels to depolarization. So this leads to a decrease, as I mentioned, a decrease in calcium influx and decrease in intracellular calcium levels. And this is the basis for their negative inotropic effect. No? And also the same reason why uh, sinus sinus node pacemaker rates also decrease and AV nodal conduction velocity also decrease. So generally, the calcium channel blockers are not used for patients who have decompensated heart failure because they have the potential to aggravate the decompensation. Okay, let's go to the specific effects on the smooth muscles. No, as relaxants of smooth muscle, the smooth muscles and blood vessels, they affect more the arteries. No? So they are more dilators of the resistance vessels. That's why you don't expect orthostatic hypotension to result from their use. No? Um, the reduced peripheral vascular resistance, of course, is a mechanism by which the CCBs are beneficial for effort angina. Okay, but and this is their advantage over the beta blockers, which we will discuss um, in a short while. They have also the ability to relieve or to prevent focal coronary artery spasm. So they are also very useful for the variant type of angina. In fact, they are considered uh, the most effective prophylaxis for variant angina, no? Or the Prince metal type of angina. Okay. They also have the ability to relax other smooth muscles as indicated in the slide. No? Now, as I mentioned earlier, and probably in the lecture on antihypertensives, the dihydropyridines have more effects on vascular smooth muscles than cardiac cells. No? And but they would have they would display also some form of selectivity in terms of the vascular beds that they dilate, no? Parang may preference din yung bawat prototype on which blood vessels they would dilate most, no? Like for example, uh, drugs like nimodipine and nicardipine will be more selective for dilating cerebral vessels. And that is why they are very useful for um, conditions of intracranial and subarachnoid bleeding. Okay. Uh, in terms of the specific effects on cardiac muscles, so again, another means by which they reduce cardiac oxygen demand is because of their negative inotropic and chronotropic effects. No? These effects are dose dependent. No? They are dose dependent. And of course, the non-dihydropyridines have the advantage in this context because they are able to have more cardiac depressant effects. They have more, they can exert more slowing of conduction in the AV node. So rather than as, or compared to the dihydropyridines, no? So mas marami silang cardiac effects kesa sa um, blood vessel effects. No? Okay. Now, so again, no, pag kinompare natin sila in terms of cardiac muscle effects, verapamil has the most, followed by diltiazem, and then followed by the prototypes of dihydropyridines. No? In fact, yung short-acting na nifedipine, wala siyang effect at all in the AV conduction uh, rates. No? Uh, so it has no negative chronotropic effect or have very minimal negative chronotropic effect. So please remember this, no, in terms of their cardiac depressant effects, no. All right, so verapamil has the most again, followed by diltiazem, and followed by the dihydropyridines. Okay, so verapamil and diltiazem will also have the ability to block the sympathetic effects. No? So you don't um, expect reflex tachycardia to result from hypotension from these agents. No? In contrast, nifedipine, no, which is common prototype of a short-acting dihydropyridine, has no such ability. So, if hypotension is produced from nifedipine, then reflex tachycardia will ensue. Okay. So, the minor toxicities that you see in the screen usually are not enough to discontinue use of your calcium channel blockers. No? The major ones, which are actually extension of pharmacologic actions, may necessitate the either dose reduction or change of agents. No? So this will be cardiac depression, bradycardia, uh, AV nodal block, and to the extreme, this may also produce cardiac arrest and worsen heart failure, no? Especially in decompensated individuals. No? Okay. Now, another important thing to remember with regards CCBs, especially when we talk about short-acting dihydropyridines exemplified by short-release nifedipine. No? Uh, this has probably been mentioned before. No? It can increase the risk for cardiac events such as MI. No? So we don't use them. We don't use nifedipine for the treatment of unstable angina if the patient has underlying hypertension and diabetes. No? So these are the group of patients who are most vulnerable for this effect, to this effect um, uh, from the use of short-acting nifedipine. Okay. So these are the clinical uses of CCBs, no? Angina, hypertension, um, certain forms of arrhythmia. So you will encounter this group of agents again when you have lecture on arrhythmias, and then in certain types of cardiomyopathy. No? They have also been used for migraine, for preterm labor, no, because they have smooth muscle because of their smooth muscle relaxant effects, and also for Raynaud's phenomenon. Okay. Now, when choosing which CCB to use, no, we have to consider not just their pharmacologic properties and their adverse effects, but the uh, pre-existing risk factors or and underlying comorbidities of the patient. No? So that's quite important. For example, in patients who already have pre-existing AV conduction anomalies, probably we should avoid verapamil or diltiazem because of their effects on AV nodal conduction. So probably we will use the dihydropyridines instead, such as nifedipine. No? Now, we should also be very careful when combining diltiazem or verapamil with the beta blocker, because this will all cause slowing of conduction. No? So we can induce AV blockade and therefore compromise ventricular function. No? So CCBs in general, probably with the exception of amlodipine, have been shown to have the potential to worsen overt heart failure, no? Because of their effect in terms of because of their negative inotropic effects, no? Or their effect in terms of decreasing cardiac contractility. Okay. Then if we have patients with angina but are not hypertensive, no, then it's better to use the non-dihydropyridines because they have less effect on in terms of dilating blood vessels. So they have less effect in terms of decreasing peripheral vascular resistance. No? For those with uh, atrial fibrillation, flutter, atrial tachycardias, now we prefer the use of verapamil and diltiazem over the dihydropyridines because as we know, they have effects on the pacemakers, so they are useful also for arrhythmias. Okay, verapamil and to a lesser extent diltiazem and nifedipine are used with very carefully in patients who are also being maintained on digoxin or digitalis, no? Because um, these CCBs may increase the serum levels of your digitalis, no? And may lead to toxicity from the latter drug. Okay. So immediate release or short release nifedipine, as was mentioned, may increase the risk of cardiac events such as MI, and therefore we don't use them in people with unstable angina, with hypertension and diabetes. So diltiazem can also be used or has proven to be useful in post non-Q wave MI as a preventive or prophylaxis for ensuing angina. So in the workbook, I think I placed a table there of common CCBs available in our country and their half-life. No? So you might want to look at that, be familiar with that table also. Okay? So the third group of agents for angina are your beta blockers. No? So actually, these are your traditional first-line agents for the management of stable or effort angina uh, from resulting from coronary artery disease. No? So they decrease cardiac contractility and heart rate, and so they decrease myocardial oxygen demand both at rest and during activity. No? Um, the reduction in heart rate that is produced from these agents will prolong the time for diastolic filling. Okay, and this may improve myocardial perfusion as well. So beta blockers are often combined with nitrates or calcium channel blockers in stable angina. Okay, so this combination uh, is quite common, and also beta blockers uh, have been shown to increase the or reduce the daily total ischemic time of the heart. No? So they're very helpful also in what we call the silent or the ambulatory uh, angina. No? These are asymptomatic persons, but when you perform an ECG on them, no, that's where you get evidence of ongoing myocardial ischemia or angina. No? So beta blockers are also very useful in this situation. Now, when we use the beta blockers, we often titrate the dose so that the resting heart rate is placed around 50 beats per minute, and a the heart rate will be on the range of in the range of 110 to 120 during activity. No? And this is because um, when you have uh, greater diastolic filling time, no, as is the effect of these agents, you have more venous return, right? So you have more blood returning to the ventricles. There's more stretch, no? So eventually, the following Frank Starling's law, the greater the stretch, the stronger the contraction. So ironically, this can increase myocardial oxygen demands, no? Which is what we don't want in the first place. No? So that is why we often adjust the dose to attain this heart rate. And that's also the reason why we combine beta blockers with nitrates, no, to counter this effect. Okay. Now, beta blockers have been shown to lower the death rates in those with heart failure or who have suffered a recent MI. No? And they have also improved the prognosis in hypertensive and also in the prevention of strokes. No? So when compared with the CCBs over this issue, they have been shown to be superior to CCBs as far as these issues are concerned. Okay. Now, what are the adverse effects and contraindications? Well, especially if you use your non-selective, no, you can induce asthma, um, uh, airway hyperactivity, and worsen COPD in susceptible patients. No? You can also cause severe bradycardia and AV blockade and may aggravate left ventricular failure. No? So some of the side effects are also fatigue, impaired exercise tolerance, no? Especially in excessive doses, or if we use these drugs in patients with heart failure, no, or severe heart failure. No? They can also impair sleep, induce nightmares, produce erectile dysfunction, and also claudication is worsened. No? Yung pangingitim ng digits. No? Okay. Now, what are the uses in the clinics? No? So, of these agents. No? So, um, angina, there are several treatment options that may be medical or surgical, no? Depending on the severity. Okay, the best option when you have intractable cases or cases that no longer respond to medication, and in cases of acute coronary syndrome, is surgical. No, it's a percutaneous coronary intervention or a coronary artery bypass. No? And these procedures have to be done as soon as possible. No? So prevention of acute coronary syndrome and the treatment of chronic coronary artery disease, however, is achieved through medical intervention. Okay, so here the primary treatment objective is towards improvement or control of the underlying cause of coronary artery disease. So uh, when coronary artery disease is appropriately controlled, then this can lessen the requirements or the need for um, antianginals, and this can prevent heart attacks. No? Now, I want you to also read on newer agents used for angina, like ranolazine and ivabradine. No? This has also been used for severe intractable cases, um, uh, just as PCI or bypass is. No? So there are several journals that will provide evidence for their effectivity in severe angina not responsive to these three agents. Okay, so lifestyle modification, of course, when controlling for coronary artery disease, then lifestyle modification is the initial step, no? And also to lessen or improve or modify risk factors such as hyperlipidemia, hypertension, no? Also control hypertension. You also uh, probably advise weight loss, no, or advise weight reduction, no, uh, advise the patient to avoid smoking or to stop smoking, no, seek treatment for depression because depression aggravates many morbidities, no, or many clinical conditions, including coronary artery disease, no. So this called comorbidity should be adequately controlled, no? Both pharmacologically and through lifestyle modification. So, what about antiplatelet therapy or the use of your aspirin or thienopyridines, no? Like clopidogrel? Okay, and what about the use of your statins or your other antilipidemics? Well, they are also essential in the prevention of ischemia, the prevention of MI and death in patients with angina. No? Now, the ACE inhibitors also have the potential to reduce adverse cardiac events in patients at high risk for CAD. Now, but in terms of their anti-anginal effects, it's quite inconsistent. No? So that's why they are not routinely prescribed for treatment of angina. Now, for patients with acute coronary syndrome or patients with unstable angina, aggressive therapy is consists of stenting of your coronaries, the use of antilipidemics and anticoagulants and antiplatelets. No? So in the manuscript on this topic, there's a table also um, with regards the recommended treatment for the various types of angina. So please also be familiar with the table. No? So with this, I end my lecture. So I hope that you um, have understood the key concepts. If you have any questions, you can just message me or through your uh, contact me through Gmail kasi we don't have the opportunity to meet because uh, there are no classes, no, for your sections due to medicine week. So if you have questions, just message me na lang for any clarification, no. um, in terms of the quiz, I'll just inform your coordinators um, if I'm going to give a quiz next week or when and if I will give a quiz on this topic for those sections who have no classes, no? So the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday sections. So thank you very much.